morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started with our session. And this morning, good morning. We're going to get started with our session. Before we rise for the invocation, let me just say that the Montgomery County Council sends its deepest condolences to the family and friends of Congressman Elijah Cummings. The people of Maryland have lost a fearless fighter for human rights and social justice. His integrity and unwavering leadership made our government and state stronger. Beloved by his constituents and all who had the honor of knowing him, we mourn his memory, thinking about the difference he made in the lives of so many. Let us observe a moment of silence for Congressman Elijah Cummings. Please rise as you're able. Thank you. And please remain standing for the invocation by Reverend Dr. Pearl J. Selby from the Oak Grove AME Zion's Church.
Good morning. Thank you. Let us pray. Gracious and eternal one, creator and sustainer of the universe, we invoke your presence in this place and ask you to bless in a tremendous way this council today, heart, body, mind, and spirit, that they may perform the responsibilities and tasks set before them with ethical standards, moral tenacity, and justice for all those they serve. Bless them for the strides they have already made, and help them to continue to listen, hear, lead, and be the spokespersons in this Montgomery County for all people. Be with them in their discussions and decisions today. Lead them, guide them, and direct them. Give them wisdom and clarity, we pray. Amen.
Also, I want to announce that Councilmember Hucker will be absent today due to a death in his family, so our thoughts are with him and his family as well. We will now begin with presentations, and we have a proclamation recognizing October as Cybersecurity Awareness Month by Council Vice President Katz and myself.
Can I wait 2 seconds? Yes. Before we begin, I just wanted to introduce, taking a moment of personal privilege here, we're pleased to welcome our visitors from the Advocacy Committee in Leisure World who are with us today, and they've come to see democracy in action, and that word in action is 2 words rather than inaction. So, and I'd like to thank Barbara Levin for organizing the visit. Thank you very much.
So I'm really pleased to join my colleague, Council Vice President Katz, for this proclamation. We both serve on the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee, which I chair, and we are always very concerned about issues regarding cybersecurity, especially when it comes to a complex government such as ours. So we've really been working super hard in our committee to provide the necessary resources and also to require items like strategic plans to make sure we are tracking and we understand exactly where our risks may lie, and then what kind of preparation, what kind of training should all of our county employees be mandated to exercise, because we really do live in a totally different world. And it was just a couple of weeks ago that we were in New York meeting with all the different rating agencies. And it was interesting because this is the first year that rating agencies are asking jurisdictions about their action plans, their strategic plan. What are they doing to safeguard, against any kind of possible cybersecurity risks? So it was great to be able to share how proactive we've been here in county government, but it's also everybody to exercise due diligence at home. And make sure that we're all practicing, in doing everything we can to safeguard ourselves as well. I will also mention that we are very lucky in the county to have two institutions who are at the forefront of also training those young people that may want to go into this field. Both the universities of Shady Grove as well as Montgomery College have excellent programs preparing that pipeline of folks that will work in this area. So I'm really glad that we're here to raise this awareness. Oh, and we did receive our AAA bond rating, which we'll talk about in a minute. I was going to mention that in a little while too, but I think it's really important to pause and highlight this important issue. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President. National Cybersecurity Awareness Month was actually created as a collaborative effort between government and industry to ensure every American has the resources needed to stay safe and secure online. This month's emphasizes personal accountability and the importance of taking proactive steps to enhance cybersecurity at home and the workplace. The overarching message is own it, secure it, protect it. The widespread use of technology such as iPhones and iPads brought with it a rise in cyber abuse. Now we have a spectrum of mayhem, such as the hacker releasing ransomware on a single computer, to state-sponsored hackers using cyber crime as a method of war. As a local government, Montgomery County is dedicated to promoting a safer, more secure, and more trusted internet for our residents. We are engaging and educating county employees and their agency business partners about cybersecurity by offering live events and online programs. If we could invite everyone, please, who was part of this proclamation to please come forward. See, they did this in person and not online. I just want you to realize that. You want them to introduce themselves first, and then yeah, there you go. Would you like to introduce yourselves? And okay.
Hi, I'm John Ablis. I'm the president of System 1. We're a cyber firm. We're a little bit different. We do the governance and a lot of the risk and evaluations. I'll just keep it short. Okay. I could go on forever.
I'm Sonny Siegel. I'm the Director of Technology Services for Montgomery County Government.
I am Henry Mobayani, IT Chief for Montgomery Parks and Montgomery Planning. I have two of my cybersecurity team, Dominique and Zeke.
I'm Dominique, and I'm part of the Committee for Parks and Planning.
My name is Zeke. I work for the Planning Department.
Joan Cole, Montgomery County. I'm the Training Coordinator.
Keith Young, Montgomery County Government. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer.
Lisa Klein. I am the Chair of the Safe Technology Committee with the Montgomery County Council of PTAs.
Margaret Latimer. I'm the Vice President and Provost for the STEM unit at Montgomery College, and where we have a cybersecurity program with over 600 students in it, and I want to thank you for reinforcing the need for all of us to take that responsibility and for your support for our program.
Thank you, and I'm Tanya Baker, and I work at Montgomery College along with Margaret.
Oh, my name is Eddie Figueroa, and I'm a cyber student.
And he's too humble to say he also teaches at Code Ninja, so he's teaching the little ones.
Yes, please. And because of that, we have a proclamation. You want to start?
Whereas National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, observed annually every October, is a collaboration effort between government and industry to ensure every American has access to the information and resources they need for safe and secure online activities. And whereas with increasing frequency and sophistication, malicious actors in the cyberspace are attacking our critical infrastructure sectors, businesses, state and local governments, academic institutions, healthcare systems, public safety, national security, individuals, and
whereas as in a 2019 NSCAM, SAM champion, Montgomery County recognizes that it has a vital role in identifying, protecting, and responding to cyber threats that may have significant impact on privacy and individual and collective security by nurturing cybersecurity industry entrepreneurs through supportive policies and protecting the information of its taxpayers through strong investments in governmental cybersecurity and systems, and maintaining the security of cyberspace as a shared responsibility in which each of us has a critical role to play as a part of the national public awareness campaign, Stop, Think, Connect, to get informed and engage best practices and
we share everything here. Whereas in 2018, the Interagency Technology Policy and Coordination Committee, ITPCC, which is an amazing committee, initiated the Interagency Cybersecurity Awareness Month project to encourage multi-agency collaboration to promote cyber awareness and provide Montgomery County employees and residents with information, guidance, and tools needed to become safer online. And now, therefore, do we, Mark Elridge, County Executive, Nancy Navarro, Council President, and Sidney Katz, Council Vice President, hereby proclaim the month of October 2019 in Montgomery County as Interagency Cybersecurity Awareness Month, signed by Council President, Council Vice President, and County Executive. Congratulations.
Yeah. Does anybody want to talk?
Thank you. Thank you, Council President Navarro and Council Vice President Katz. This is a very important proclamation. It takes all of us and our heightened awareness to deal with this very real threat. I want to thank the county executive and the entire county council as well for your support, for your sustained support, in maintaining awareness of this threat. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this.
Next, we have a really wonderful proclamation honoring the lifetime achievement of Austin Heyman by Councilmember Albornoz.
Good morning, good people. Let the record show I'm wearing my Nationals red today. All right, Mahatma Gandhi once said the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service to others. For a remarkably impressive life and professional and civic and advocacy career, Austin Heyman has been serving all of us. We are here to acknowledge a remarkable lifetime of achievement and accomplishment and leadership and humility and love. Austin, it has been one of the honors of my life to have had the opportunity to meet you, sir, to work with you, and to learn from you. The reason we are here today is because AARP, in their infinite wisdom, decided to give Austin an award earlier this year in September in Ocean City, Maryland, for his dedication and volunteerism over that lifetime. For a number of reasons, Austin wasn't able to go to Ocean City personally, so AARP and the county decided to bring the party here to Montgomery County. And so that's why we are here today. What we're going to do is watch a short video, and then we are going to hear from another incredible man in Montgomery County, Chuck Short, who will say some words, as well as Debbie Spielberg representing our county executive, and then the man himself, Austin Heyman, will say a few words himself. I'll read the proclamation, and we're going to take a big group picture because we all love Austin and want to make sure we acknowledge this special day. But let's turn to the video now.
As the 2019 winner of the AARP Maryland Lifetime Achievement Award for his community service, Austin Heyman has dedicated much of his life to creating communities for all ages. He has pioneered the intergenerational movement in Montgomery County.
Hello, I'm Austin Heyman. Welcome to Seniors Today.
Austin is probably best known as the moderator of County Cable Montgomery's Seniors Today program. Austin readily took on the role of host and was instrumental in all phases of this award-winning show.
How you see senior issues being addressed.
The driving force and inspiration for Seniors Today has always been Austin Heyman.
Well, that's it for this month's Seniors Today.
More than 3 decades ago, Austin recognized there was a need for better connections between generations.
And the future of Montgomery County is in these kinds of partnerships between young and old.
In 1986, he founded InnerAges, a nonprofit organization which is now part of the Jewish Center for Aging. Today, the InnerAges Center offers a wide array of intergenerational programs that have served more than 45,000 children, teens, and adults. In both 1995 and 2005, Austin was a delegate to the White House Conference on Aging. He proposed the Senior Leadership Montgomery program that has been offered by Leadership Montgomery since 2002.
It truly filled in a lot of gaps in my knowledge. Not only that, but has whetted my appetite to learn even more about what goes on in this county.
And he was the first chair of the Montgomery County Commission on Children and Youth. Austin Heyman's commitment to enrich our community and bring generations together will always stand as one of Montgomery County's lasting legacies.
Ooh, I'm going to try to hold this together. Austin, if you could please come forward, and Debbie and Chuck, if you could please come forward as well. I'd first like to invite Debbie to say a few words on behalf of the county executive. Debbie Spielberg.
Hello, everyone. First, I'm just going to be very brief. I just wanted to say the county executive was very disappointed that he couldn't be here himself. He's going to stop by later because he wants to be sure to tell you himself how much he appreciates the work that you've done and you do. I just wanted to do a very brief quote from Samuel Ullman that I think captures a lot, that says, "The years may wrinkle the skin, but to give up enthusiasm wrinkles the soul." And you have never given up. And for that and so much more, we express our deep gratitude and appreciation. So thank you so much.
That was beautiful, Debbie. Very well done. And now another Titan in Montgomery County, Chuck Short.
Thank you, Councilmember Albanaz, and Debbie, thank you very much. I've known Austin for 40 years, and I know first and foremost of his humility. I know the last thing in the world he wants me to do is praise him right now. He came here to thank you, and we need to get to that quickly. But I do think a society or a community makes a big mistake when we have a giant of a role model of morality, of hard work, and civic engagement among us, and we fail to celebrate that individual and we fail to learn from that individual, So I speak of my friend Austin as a teacher, not only to me, but to I hope through this event and others, to understand a teacher of what it is to be a citizen, a resident of Montgomery County. Austin has first been a wonderful father and husband, arguably a good father, right, David? I see David Heyman. But he has been committed to our public school system through the Montgomery County Association of Parent Teachers, as a leader of the Montgomery County Association of PTAs while his children were younger. He was the founding chairperson of the Commission on Children and Youth in Montgomery County in his younger days. And he later left his years in federal service at AID to start a nonprofit organization to serve both young people and older people. And he created a wonderful, well-functioning, continuing nonprofit called InterAges. And once he retired from that, he took on the role of advocate and visionary for Montgomery County's senior community, which he's been doing and still does, even though he got pretty sick for a while. Didn't take him long to rise up and start calling these wonderful council members behind us and the county executive with new ideas about how we should move forward. So I say these things, my friend Austin, not to embarrass you, not to praise you, but really to urge the people who are watching to learn from your life how much a difference a single person can make in our community. And you have made ours much, much richer. Thank you.
All right. I'll hold the microphone for you, Austin, and we'd be honored if you'd say a few words as well. You can stay seated.
Well, I am deeply, I'm deeply touched by all of you being here and these words. I'm honored by AARP and the county executive and the Montgomery County Council, and I do accept the AARP award, knowing that all that I have achieved has been due to many partners, many of you who are here. I've been fortunate to have had the opportunity to be engaged for the past 50 years in this very caring community. It's a great place to live, and there has been considerable joy in what I've been fortunate to do. During the past 30 years, it has been estimated that InterAges programs have benefited 35 to 45,000 children, youth, and older adults. As I've said, there have been many partners: the county PTA, members of the Commission on Children and Youth, and more recently, the Commission on Aging, the Vital Living Committee, and of course, InterAges staff and past boards of directors. I do want to take this occasion to recognize some specific individuals who have supported my work. Former county executives Gilchrist, Kramer, Potter, and Duncan, and many past members of the Board of Education and past superintendents of schools. No one has done more to create a community for a lifetime and an age-friendly community than Ike Leggett. As we used to say, Ike gets it. I've served for the past 12 years as a senior fellow, and during this time, the leadership and members of the Commission on Aging have made a major difference. I consider we have made significant progress in creating a community for a lifetime through both intergenerational programs and a major growth in responding to the challenges and opportunities of an aging population. Jay Kenny and the staff of Aging and Disability Services have been strong partners in all that I have done. But there are no adequate words to describe the 40 years I have worked with Chuck Short, beginning as Executive Secretary for the newly established Commission on Children and Youth in 1978, to 40 years later as a past Director of the Department of Health and Human Services and then as Special Assistant to the County Executive. Thanks, partner and friend. Nothing I've been able to achieve would have been possible without the support of my late wife, Barbara, a community leader in her own right. A little secret, she was my editor of anything I wrote. In these difficult times in which we live, I would like to recognize the amazing caregivers, all of whom have come from Africa and who have shared my challenges of the past 10 months. And finally, it is the love of my sons, David and Stephen, and my family that have made it even possible for me to be here today. I love you all. Thank you for coming.
We love you too, Austin. If everybody who's here to celebrate Austin can come up while I read the proclamation, please come forward. All right, I'm going to read this proclamation, and this is really all of my colleagues and I sharing this. We all love you so, so much, Austin. So, proclamation. Whereas Austin Heyman, always supported by his dear wife Barbara, has demonstrated a lifelong commitment to expanding opportunities for residents of all ages and backgrounds, ensuring all are treated with dignity and respect. And whereas for more than 3 decades has been a tireless advocate working to transform our local school system and local youth services while also focusing on issues affecting older adults. And whereas his steadfast commitment to the Commission on Children and Youth, the Commission on Aging, the Office of Community Partnerships as a senior fellow, and in his service as co-chair of the age-friendly Montgomery Group on civic and social involvement has significantly impacted all segments of our community. And whereas as host of Seniors Today, a Montgomery County cable television program for and about older adults, he initiated and led noteworthy intergenerational programming, including the Commission on Children and Youth and Interages, which is now JCA Heyman Interages. And whereas he has served as a grand champion for older adults to lead active lives through pivotal programming, including Senior Leadership Montgomery, the Vital Living Network, the 50 Plus Volunteer Network, and the county's innovative Senior Fellow Program. And whereas, in recognition of his selfless dedication to our community, Mr. Heyman was recognized as the 2019 Marilyn Andrus Lifetime Achievement Award for Community Service, an honor bestowed by AARP to those who have shaped our community for the better by their exceptional service to others. Now for there be resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby honors Mr. Austin Heyman, a visionary and integral leader of our community, and has demonstrated a lifetime of service, creativity, integrity, and purpose. Presented on this 22nd day of October in the year 2019, signed by myself and Council President Nancy Navarro. Let's give him one more round of applause. My colleagues could be stand.
right, our next proclamation will be presented by Councilmember Jawando, and this is an anti-bullying proclamation.
All right. This is going to be a proclamation. Hi, Barbara. How are you? All my Leisure World friends. Honoring or commemorating and acknowledging Anti-Bullying Awareness Month. So if I could have, this is a great intergenerational event today. If I could have Mr. Kavanaugh Bell come down and join me. Looking really sharp, too, today. Stand right here. There you go. It's my pleasure today to have Kavanaugh with me for this proclamation presentation, and you're going to hear from him in just one moment. I'd also like to acknowledge his mother, Lacey Simmons, and his grandmother, Dolores Simmons, who are in the back, who didn't want to come up, but thank you for bringing him. At 6 years old, Kavanaugh has already done more to give back to our community than many adults. He is the founder of his own 501c3 nonprofit organization named Cool and Dope. He has been featured on local news, and he has already given his first TEDx talk. Kavanaugh has made time in his schedule between his school and nonprofit work to raise awareness about bullying prevention, to help seniors, and to help the homeless. I forgot to mention he is a resident, him and his family, of Gaithersburg. Bullying, Mayor, I knew Mayor would like that. Bullying is a pervasive problem in our society, and with the anonymity of the internet, individuals are even more emboldened to spread misinformation and rumors with the sole intention of hurting people. No one is immune to bullying, though 20% of our students aged 12 through 18 will experience bullying. And bullying is not just one comment at one time. It's consistent behavior that really damages the psyche of the individual. This council has said that we are going to represent everybody and stand up for the rights of everyone, and it's incumbent upon all of us to spread the word that bullying will not be tolerated in our community and to speak out. And that's what Kavanaugh has been doing. Our children need to have our support. I'm going to turn it to Kavanaugh in 1 second, but just wanted to say how proud we are of you, that you've taken this leadership role, and I want to hear what you have to say, and then we'll read this proclamation, okay? All right.
Thank you, council members, for having me here today. I'm in first grade, and I'm on a mission to change the world. The truth is, the world is broken, and with so much hostility, we forget the power of positivity. We deserve a county where kids are uplifted, not denied a voice. We deserve a state where we can embrace our diversity, not hate. We deserve a country where we are quick to help, not to judge. I may only be 6 years old, but this world is mine too. And I'm exercising my power to speak up and to speak out. I'm here for Gabriel. I'm here for Jackson. I'm here for Mallory. I'm here for Seven. I'm here for Stormia. I'm here for Ashanti. And a number of countless kids like me that have been forced to suffer in silence. Enough is enough. Bullying ends with us. Thank you.
Yeah, good job. Good job. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to read this proclamation, and then I'll have my colleagues come down, and because we all want a picture with you. I know that. County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, whereas for almost a decade, October has been recognized in the United States as National Bullying Prevention Month, a time that should remind us of the long-term detrimental effects of bullying, including a loss of self-esteem, increased anxiety, and depression. And whereas bullying is any type of physical, verbal, emotional harm or abuse or intimidation directed at a person or group of people and can occur anywhere, including in our neighborhoods, playgrounds, schools, and across social media platforms. And whereas even at 6 years old, Kavanaugh Bell knew that he was not too young to volunteer and give back to his community and created the nonprofit organization Cool and Dope, Kavanaugh seeks to ignite the spirit of togetherness and positivity and make Montgomery County a better place to live, work, and raise a family. And whereas Kavanaugh's efforts to raise awareness around the issue of bullying have taken him from addressing the Gaithersburg City Council to meeting with representatives of Congress on Capitol Hill, and now to the Montgomery County Council in Maryland. And whereas we are reminded that in Montgomery County, our diversity is our greatest strength, and Kavanaugh's efforts to make our community more inclusive and accepting, as well as his infectious positive attitude, should serve as an inspiration and call to action for us all. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby recognizes the month of October 2019 as National Bullying Prevention Month, and be it further resolved that the County Council recognizes the tremendous efforts of Kavanaugh Bell in bridging community gaps through his work on bullying prevention. Presented on the 22nd day of October this year, 2019, signed by myself, William Jawando, and Council President Nancy Navarro. Let's give Kavanaugh one more round of applause. And if my colleagues could come down and take a picture. Thank you. Yeah, Mom, if you want to come, you can. And Grandma, okay.
What an inspirational morning. This is really uplifting. Wonderful. Okay, now we're on to general business. Let's see, Ms. Lauer, do you have anything to announce?
Just one quick note, the T&E committee scheduled for Thursday, October 24th, has been canceled, and there were no petitions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So the minutes have been distributed. These are for September 24th and October 1st. Are there any changes to the minutes? Colleagues? Nope. All right. So with that, they are approved. Also, very quickly, I just wanted to, before we go on to the consent calendar, I wanted to, again, talk a little bit about our AAA bond rating. Obviously, we're all very excited that we have once again earned a AAA bond rating. Achieving a AAA bond rating is a testament to our ongoing long-term and strategic fiscal management and signifies that Montgomery County is among the best in the nation for fiscal responsibility. Our county has retained a AAA bond rating since 1973, which we understand is the longest run of any county in the United States. This designation provides our county with a substantial competitive advantage because it lowers the cost of borrowing and enables access to the credit needed to capitalize on investment opportunities to grow and serve our community. For example, the county may use bond funding to build new schools, finance transportation networks, or launch economic development projects. These projects help the county increase its tax base and thrive over the long haul. This rating also gives Montgomery County a competitive edge over lower-ranked jurisdictions. A AAA bond rating is the highest possible rating that may be assigned to an issuer's bonds by any of the major credit rating agencies And in addition, a AAA bond rating is only given to local jurisdictions that issue bonds with the highest levels of credit worthiness and denotes that issuers are easily able to meet their fiscal commitments. The key rating agencies are Standard & Poor's, Fitch Ratings, and Moody's Investor Services, Inc. Montgomery County has consecutively earned a AAA bond rating from Moody's since 1973, from Standard & Poor's since 1976, and from Fitch since 1991. As Council President and Chair of the Government Operations and Fiscal Policy Committee, I am extremely proud of the fiscal policies that the Council has put in place, such as the 6-year fiscal plan, which increased the county's reserve to 10%, and the creation of a consolidated retiree health benefits trust. We have executed our fiscal plans and met our financial commitments. Montgomery County has institutionalized strong fiscal management practices and managed our debt obligations, while at the same time making critical economic development investments to revitalize and jumpstart many areas of our county. And we will continue to do more as we are engaged in a thorough review of our fiscal policies to make sure that we are enhancing and strengthening our posture. We will also continue to work with the county executive to grow our county's tax base through economic development initiatives by leveraging our outstanding community and business assets to promote future growth. Montgomery County's future is bright, and our AAA bond rating helps provide the resources needed for success. So I want to thank all my colleagues who have been working very diligently to ensure that our fiscal policies are in place, and I think this is a great testament, and we should all be proud and continue to work hard at the same time. So thank you. All right, so for consent calendar, I need a motion.
I so move.
Moved by Council Vice President Katz and seconded by Councilmember Reamer. All right. I don't see any lights. So with that, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That is unanimous among those present. All right, for item number 3, this is introduction of zoning text amendment 19-08, bicycle parking requirements and design standards. The lead sponsor is Council President at the request of the Planning Board. Public hearing is scheduled for December 3rd at 1:30 p.m. And now we'll move on to item 4, and this is the semi-annual report of the Montgomery County Planning Board. So all of you who are here for this item, please come forward. Ms. Dunn has also prepared a packet for us, but I want to welcome the Planning Board Chair as well as Planning Board members, as well as Director of Parks, who are all here for this very important semi-annual report. Ms. Dunn, let me turn it over to you, and you can get us started.
Good morning. Yes, we'd like to welcome the Planning Board and the Planning Department and the Parks Department here. They're here today to provide the Council with their semi-annual update. It informs the Council of their ongoing work program, any issues or concerns, any changes in that work program, and gives you a highlight of what's been going on with both of these departments over the past 6 months. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because they have presentations they'd like to present, and I'm sure there's questions and conversation.
Thank you. First, can we just go through and everybody introduce themselves for the record before we get into the actual conversation? We'll start with you, Mr. Sitch. Can you please press the button on the base there?
Sorry, Jerry Sushi on the Montgomery County Planning Board.
Welcome.
Good morning, I'm Tina Patterson.
Gwen Wright, Planning Director.
Casey Anderson, Planning Board Chair.
Without Verma, Planning Board.
Mike Riley, Parks Director.
Welcome, everybody. All right, so Mr. Anderson, would you like to start us off?
Usually I like to show a few slides, but today I wanted to reflect on the last 8 years that I've spent on the Planning Board for just a moment. And the reason I do that is because I think back to the first plan that I worked on, which was Chevy Chase Lake. And hesitate to bring it up because it wasn't a plan that was met with universal acclaim. But I noticed that there's ribbon cutting for the second building for that project coming up just next week. And it's the nature of real estate development and, in fact, park development, this is also true, that often the plans that we draft and recommend to you and that you review and approve often do not actually become realized even in our lifetime sometimes, and usually at least not for several years. And I remember thinking during that very contentious debate over Chevy Chase Lake that I would be lucky if I were still around in public service when that plan was built. And it's very gratifying to see that not only is it being built, but the world is not, in fact, coming to an end, and that there's a really quite a remarkable affordable housing project there that HOC has built. It's created a lot of affordable housing in a part of the county that had very little up until that point. The Purple Line, which is, of course, also contentious, is being built. That was another issue that was hotly debated during that plan. And I think it's a reminder to all of us in positions of public leadership that sometimes it's very difficult to lead in that context, because we're asking people to see the possibilities of what could be in a way that in the short term causes disruption, and it causes people to be very uncomfortable with change. And yet over the long term, I think that we recognize that the Planning Department and the Parks Department, working together with the County Council, have a track record of delivering plans that produce projects that improve the quality of life for everybody. So I think there are lessons in that, but really today I just wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to serve. I really look forward to the next few years, and I've never been more energized and looking forward to the future than I am today. And with that, I would like to ask other members of the Planning Board if they have anything to say, but in particular, our newest Planning Board member, Partha Verma, sitting to my right, and then perhaps we could turn to the other board members who've been around for a couple of years.
Sure. Thank you, Chair Casey Anderson. So we meet again. It wasn't too long ago I was interviewing for this job, and it's been 2 months, and it's been a great experience so far, an honor actually, getting to know folks in the Parks Department and the Planning Department. It's not just a one-day job, lots of weekend events, weeknights, and getting to know the public, getting to know the issues in the county. So it's been really nice, and I hope to continue this role, and it's just a pleasure. So I want to thank you again for this opportunity, and I hope we can report back to you on other things that are happening in the county very soon.
It's on. Pleasure to be here, and it's reminiscent actually about 40 years ago in 1979 under Charlie Gilchrist, and actually worked with Chuck Short. I was appointed to the Department of Transportation, which was one of my best jobs that I ever received, other than this, which I'm enjoying. But you got a great candidate coming later. I'm going to listen to it on TV, but certainly a lot of background. I just want to mention one thing. I try to get out to some of the park events, and I want to comment on the cricket field. I really thought it was outstanding. Several of the council members were there. But it really is consistent with the council's action on racial equity and social justice. It really shows that the county, we are kind of the world. When you look at the diversity that exists in the county, sometimes they talk about Ethiopian restaurants in Wheaton. There might be more there than there is in Addis Ababa. But anyway, I think that supports where the council sees this going, and the county exec as well. I can't not touch transportation. I really have been involved originally with a consultant bidding on the multimodal corridor study. Harry Hughes, who passed away this year, I worked under him at MDOT. He was multimodal. He did a study for the General Assembly that made the department one of the first multimodal departments of transportation in the country. He actually, in Madison, Wisconsin, talked AASHTO, which was the American Association of State Highway Officials, into being AASHTO, Highways and Transportation. This was back in the early 70s. So again, I've really been an advocate of the I-270 project. If it goes ahead, whether it's 50 years or I've heard 99 years, but to add 3 years or 4 years onto it to basically provide the county with either the CCT or the other the 355 projects that have been identified. And just one other point I want to make. I just did a little research. Back in the day when the I-270 and I-95 did not go into the district, you could transfer that money. Neil Potter at the time, I remember him arguing with Harry Hughes to do the ICC all the way, making it interstate. That money actually went to Arundel County and Baltimore County. But again, just doing a little research, you can add things to the interstate, and certainly the ICC was built to interstate standards. It could be called I-370 all the way to I-95, and then the concern that the council and others have about the Beltway, if you had signs on 270 that said, you know, I-95 Prince George's County as you came on 270, take, you know, 370, and then coming the other way, it would be, you know, Frederick I-270 North. So these are things that can be done. Something that could be looked at is making that whole, there's a section 103 that allows states to add toll roads to the interstate. And again, keeping it as a toll road provides the maintenance for it. That's my spiel on transportation. Thank you for listening. I've enjoyed my term here, and I hope to continue in the future. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to share a few brief points with you. I want to applaud you for introducing Bill 2917, the Racial Equity and Social Justice Bill. As the senior advisor to the Commission's Diversity Council, this dovetails very nicely with the work that we are doing commission-wide, and this is both for Prince George's County as well as for Montgomery County. We'd be happy to come before you and talk to you about what we're doing as a commission to make sure that the employees feel that their voices are heard as it relates to topics on diversity, equity, and inclusion. You'll also hear from Director Wright in the future that we are working on a study that I am a key stakeholder along with my commission fellow, Manny Giraldo, and Prince George's County. I say these things to you because I think it's important that as we move forward as a county and as this group, the Planning Department and the Parks Department move forward, it's important to recognize who's at the table and what's being said, and that what those words indicate and what our actions are reflective of the needs of the community at large. You'll hear that we have made recommendations about who should participate on the committee, and I ask that you continue to hold us vigilant in terms of what we do for both staff as well as for the public. And the last note is we know that the CCT is no longer on the roster of projects, but that doesn't mean that we can't do transportation projects that would impact or help those who are in the Up County as well as in the East County. Folks still need to get to work, and we can't do it with the transportation model that we have today. So I'm hoping that you'll consider looking at reliable, robust transportation for all county residents, especially in the areas that I've mentioned.
Thank you so much. I do want to acknowledge and thank the Planning Board as well as the Parks Department for being proactive regarding our work on racial equity and social justice. Just yesterday we had the school system come and present on a very important report where they are looking at how resources are distributed and how does it impact this issue of equity. And so it's very exciting that different agencies are really, truly being proactive so we can be aligned. It's great that we are going to pass legislation for county government, but if all of us are not on the same page when it comes to the school system and Montgomery College and park and planning, we won't be able to really turn the needle as fast as we should. So I do thank everybody who's working so hard, and Ms. Patterson, really thank you particularly for the work that you are leading with regards to this issue. All right, so who's next?
I want to turn it over to Mike Riley, but I just wanted to remind the council, sometimes all of you get so enthusiastic about asking questions about whoever's presenting first that we don't leave time for whoever's second. So just wanted to remind you that after Mike and the Parks Department present, we do have a very exciting set of things to talk about in the Planning Department.
Good morning, Mike Riley, Parks Director. It's great to be with you this morning to tell you a little bit about the good things that are going on in the Parks Department. With your consent, I'm going to start with a 2-minute video that just shows highlights of some of the major events we've held in the parks over the last 6 months. It pretty much speaks for itself, so I hope you enjoy it. sound.
Yeah. Let me get some volume here, sorry.
There we go. Thank you.
Let me just observe that, the music, I think it's just indicative of the excitement and the energy, so I like that. And also, I now can tell my husband that I can actually be incognito because that reggae band that was playing with Brookside Garden, I happened to be on a walk with my husband and was right behind the band hiding, dancing the whole entire time. And I told him, I said, see, I can be incognito, and that's proof because you guys didn't see me making a fool of myself dancing
Can we run
reggae.
the video one more time?
Oh, no.
Just want to check that.
So I appreciate it very much.
This is the time on Sprockets when we dance.
Well, thank you so much for watching. That's just a snippet of some of the fun things we're up to. I just want to thank you for giving us resources to be able to run programs and events like that. As you know, activating our parks has been one of the top priorities, along with trails and athletic fields, and I'm going to touch on all those now in a few PowerPoint slides, as soon as we can get that up on the screen. Apologize for the technical difficulties. There we go. Okay, so this first photo is it's one of the events that we have called the Color and Kite Festival. It happens in Black Hill Regional Park. It's organized by my friend Bijal Shah, who runs the Maryland Premier Cricket League and is one of our big park advocates. I asked him to just give me the background and history of this event. It's been happening since 2016. It's attended by several thousand people each year now. And the Color Festival back in India signifies diversity, love, and welcoming spring. He says we celebrate that to value the diverse Montgomery County environment where people from different walks of life come together to play with organic colors. And then the kite part of it says the Kite Festival is welcoming warm weather from dark winter nights and also aligns with harvesting season, but it also signifies freedom. So this is exactly the type of event where we want to grow in our parks. Not only is it a great community building event, but we like it because a lot of the work to put it on is put on by others, by a third party, and that's our message, that our parks are open for these types of events. Next slide. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about trails. As you know, creating a destination world-class trail system has been one of our top priorities. We're up to 190 miles of natural surface trail in the system. We're closing in on 200, which I promised I would achieve for Chair Anderson well before his second term is over. And we have 70 miles of paved trail. As you know, the trails serve as both a transportation option and a recreational amenity. They're a venue for active recreation like walking, running, and biking, while providing access to some of our best natural areas. We think they're one of the biggest bangs for the buck as far as expenditure for value. And I want to introduce our new trail program manager that we have just hired. If we could flip the slide. I'll ask Darren Flouchet, who's in the audience, to step up and give you a wave. He is our new trail program manager. So anybody who loves trails, of course, you can always go to Casey. You can always go to me. If you want to go right to the source, you can go right to Darren and get things done really quick. Darren comes to us from Silver Spring-based consulting firm Tool Design, where he worked on bicycle, pedestrian, and trail master plans across the country. And prior to that, he was policy director for the League of American Bicyclists. So he has a great background to step into this role. And right off the bat, when we asked him to express some of his vision for the trail network, he was ready. He talked about focusing on the user experience, delivering for each type of user group that use our trails and provide a variety of experiencing, mastering the fundamentals, which includes network connectivity and great design features, and then doing some big signature projects. So again, whether you're a commuting cyclist, a mountain biker, a jogger, a walker, an equestrian, Darren is going to be our guy to make sure our trails are meeting everybody's needs. So next, this is a case study I want to talk about that is really, really exciting. It's the Northwest Branch Trail, which is accessed right off Route 29 north of Four Corners. And we are it's some of the most beautiful scenery in Montgomery County along the fall line, so there's a lot of rocks and rapids. And the trail that has existed there for years has been a rocky trail right along the edge of the creek that has been hiking only. We are completely rebuilding it in the uplands, so as you look at the center picture, those yellow lines are the new trail alignment, so that you're getting a lot more experience. That photo on the upper right is symbolic of what the new trail looks like, and on the lower right is some of the scenery you see while you're in there. The two pictures on the left are the old trail, and you could see the upper left, you can see the rocky nature of what was there, and then of course it was in the floodplain, so when the creek flooded you'd have sand and silt deposition that would impede use. We got this done both with our own forces and also a partnership with WSSC, who is redoing the water and sewer infrastructure in that corridor. A lot of the work was done with volunteers. And again, if you have not ever hiked or walked this section of trail, get in there because it's some of the most beautiful scenery in Montgomery County. Very quickly, we had a couple awards this year in the trail category at the American Trails International Symposium. On the left, you see Bonnie Bell. She won the Volunteer Award. She's been a volunteer with us since 1999. She was instrumental in the construction of the Seneca Creek Greenway Trail. She's led 36 volunteer trail workday projects on the 8-mile trail, resulting in over 1,200 hours of volunteer service. And she also, in her spare time, serves as a bluebird monitor, where she is helping rejuvenate the bluebird population in that part of the county. So I want to thank Bonnie. And then on the right is the Western Piedmont Trail, which won a Planning and Design award, if you see in the top, that is the creek crossing that existed back in 2015. Unfortunately, we had a child fall off on the upstream and actually get swept through those culverts, which was the impetus to change this. And we acted very rapidly. Within 6 months, we had installed a new 70-foot fiberglass bridge, done 450 feet of stream restoration, and restored fish passage in one of the most pristine and biologically unique watersheds in the county. And I do want to thank, you can't see the people on that bridge, but two of them are State Senator Brian Feldman and Delegate David Frazier Hidalgo, who got us a $100,000 bond bill for that bridge. And then very quickly, just two other things on trails. We have established a rainout line similar to what we have for athletic fields when trails are used when they're saturated after rain falls or in the winter or spring. They can be damaged, so now we can signal very easily through a multitude of methods to users when trails are closed because they're too wet. And also we're doing an e-scooter and an e-bike pilot on selected hiker-biker trails in the system, and we're coordinating with MCDOT on the rollout of the commercial program. We're in an evaluation stage and collecting data, and I imagine we'll expand that pilot and then be able to report back to the board and the council later on. And then lastly on trails, our Vision Zero efforts. All these photos are from an event we did with MCDOT called Cycling in the Circle at Warner Mansion in Kensington, where we set up real life situations for kids and brought in a whole bunch of kids on bikes and taught them the rules of the road and how to ride safely. We also are, we've cataloged all of our road crossings of our trail network in the parks. There's 121 places where those busy trails cross park roads, state roads, or county roads. We're doing about 10 improvements a year to improve, install best practices for pedestrian, bike, and motorist safety, and that's thanks to a project you approved in the CIP a few years ago. And then lastly, I've convened a work group, multi-agency work group, to continue looking at best practices where the Henson Trail crosses Veers Mill Road. I have my 10th meeting with this work group Friday, and we still have more work to do in aligning the crosswalk there so that it goes straight across now that we have a light, a red light there, as opposed to a staggered crossing, and State Highway has indicated they're going to do that shortly. So on to fields. I know you don't want to say no to better fields for those cute kids, and just look at that grass they're standing on. That's what they want. They want to be playing on fields that have those kinds of grass. Those photos are from the Little League opening day, and then it's Tacoma Soccer on the right. So I'm going to get into numbers a little bit on the MCPS fields. As you know, back around 2000, Parks got in the business of renovating and maintaining selected school fields that went into a lull for a while, but we've picked it back up over the last 4 years. And I just want to give you a report where we are. We're working closely with MCPS staff on this. There are 195 total elementary and middle school sites in the inventory at MCPS. As of today, we have renovated the fields at 114 of them and are maintaining them. So a little bit more than half. There's 81 left. We've assessed all those. About 35 of them support athletic fields. We developed a threshold for size where we define a green space as a field, and we intend to proceed with renovating those. And then 18 of them are have very small outdoor play spaces we've identified as play spaces, and we have volunteered both in Parks and Planning to work very hard with MCPS on the best practices for those spaces, because the goal is that they do provide sustainable solutions to meet the needs for students, PE, recess, and sports for the kids during the school hours, but also do provide recreational amenities for community use on the weeknights and weekends. So we want to really brainstorm with MCPS on how those sites are treated, and I want to thank Andrew Zuckerman, particularly at MCPS, for agreeing to work with us on that. And then the remainder either are sites that MCPS has a CIP project in, so they'll be the ones that renovate the field, and then they have a group of other that we won't touch because they're either leased or fall into some other category that it just doesn't make sense to us. So this is just our plan for those 35 sites that support fields. We have a 4-year plan in our CIP, $600,000 a year in ball field initiatives. And then once we renovate all those remaining sites that support fields, we would need funding to continue life cycle renovations of those fields that had been renovated previously. And if you do have questions on this, I just wanted to note that we will be briefing the Fed and ENC tentatively on December 9th in detail on this effort. Just some case studies, before and after pictures. I think the pictures speak for themselves. I just want you to see the nature of some of the fields before we tackled them. On the left, Calverton Galway, which was totally devoid of any green cover and eroding, was retrofitted with Bermuda grass. On the middle, you have a park called Buck Branch. The top photo, very emblematic of what you might find at a site that has not been renovated, also converted to Bermuda. And then on the right, you have a ball field infield that was renovated. So now on to activating communities. A lot of what you saw on the video. On the left is Zumba in the Parks, one of our new programs, which is very popular. We're doing all around the county. And then on the right is from a movie night in Germantown. So this is just a listing of, it's not all the events. I couldn't fit them on the slide. A listing of the events we've done. Many of them are new. Some of them are successful recurring events we've done. We've got a growing number of partners, both in the business and nonprofit and government sectors that we want to partner with us. And as I said earlier, the message here is that our parks are open and available for community events and festivals. So anybody who has ideas, please bring them on. And I'm just going to blast through some pictures from a lot of the events. Most of these events, I know the majority, if not all of you, were at the Burtonsville Placemaking Festival. We partnered with the community and the planning department. Was just a blast. This not only is a community building event, but a placemaking event that helps people see how a place could be transformative and different and better, and we really enjoy supporting such things. We also did a placemaking event in Long Branch just a week before we had done one in Burtonsville. Next. An event many of you were at, a little hard to see, but there's a lot of you in these photos, the Friendship Picnic that we do with a lot of partners, with the Montgomery County Office of Human Rights as a primary partner, a great event whose theme is bringing together communities with diverse cultures and faith. We're really proud to host this in Wheaton Regional Park every year, and the attendance was tremendous this year. My only complaint is we're going to shorten that food line this next time. I didn't like people standing for 30 minutes in the food line. So I've already talked with my colleagues about how we're going to do that. This is in my neck of the woods in Kensington, about the third time we've done opera in the park. It's just, you would not expect that the back of that house forms a perfect stage and amphitheater for an opera, but it does. Again, this is organized and run by others, which we really enjoy. We just facilitate the event. It's the Friends of Warner Circle, the town of Kensington, and then a Kensington resident who runs a company called Bel Canto in Tuscany, which just prepares emerging opera artists for the next stage of their career. So it's a great event and exactly the type of thing that we want to grow and support. And I do have an ulterior motive for keep showing events at Warner Mansion, because we do have great plans about how that building is going to be restored and occupied, and I really want to make that happen. Brookside Gardens' 50th birthday, again, most of you were there. Brookside is the gem of our system. We have a multi-phase master plan, renew and upgrade the garden, which I think we're in stage 4 or 5 of now. But I just want to thank you for us continuing to support Brookside Gardens. I think that place only becomes more important, particularly as we talk about mental health issues. That is an oasis for a lot of people to get away and rejuvenate. So I think Brookside just continues to become a more important gem in Montgomery County. This, I think, is my favorite photo of the year. This is from the cricket grand opening. This is Casey and Parthop with a bunch of cricket players, and I just think between the people and the turf, it's an incredible photo. This, of course, was our first purpose-built cricket field in South Germantown Recreational Park. We have 8 others, but those 8 others were all repurposed fields that do provide for cricket, but they're not ideal because they're not full size. On this full size field, you can actually play hardball cricket, which is the way the game was meant to be played. And I think many of you may know or may not know that cricket is the most popular sport in the world with the second most popular sport in the world. Yeah. That was with 2.5 billion fans just behind soccer or football, as it is called everywhere else but here.
I've never seen Councilmember Albernaz angry, but it was close. I just want the record to reflect. That was the angriest he gets.
I got to slide 15 before I messed up, so that's pretty good. So here's more photos from the cricket field opening. It just was a wonderful celebration. I love the one on the upper right where we were we got to do this more often. At the last minute, we handed the scissors to the kids. We took them away from the elected and handed them to the kids, and it was just, the smiles on their face were just tremendous. Here's one I know you were all at. I think each and every one of you was at the grand opening for the Wheaton Library, Rec Center, and local park. One thing I want to highlight about this is when I applied for director and they asked me my goals, one of them was intergovernmental collaboration. It didn't get much traction. It didn't sound very sexy, but I am a true believer to do great things in Montgomery County that the different jurisdictions of government need to work closely together, and this is a case where clearly DGS, recreation, libraries, and the Parks Department work closely together for an outstanding result. That playground, I hope you made it over there before you left or looked when we were right after we cut the ribbon. I think that's one of the nicest and best playgrounds we have in the system right now, and judging by the kids' interaction with it right after the ribbon cutting, you have to agree. Every time I drive up and down Georgia Avenue now, I always turn my head and see lots and lots of people enjoying that beautiful playground. We have a partnership with the Capitals to put 2 inline rinks in our parks. Obviously, their agenda is to support the sport of hockey. Our agenda is to get these multi-use rinks in the system at no cost to the taxpayers, so it's a great partnership. I want to commend our Park Foundation for working with us to get this done. One of them just opened up county in Ridge Road Recreational Park, and the second one will open in the spring, along with a park refresher in Dewey Recreational Park. So I want to thank the Capitals and just point out this is just one of our ways. We're obviously aware that the tax base, the local tax base, can't fully support all the needs of the growing park system, so we're focused on public-private partnerships, our Park Foundation, grants, bond bills, volunteers. We're looking at all kinds of ways to bring resources into the parks outside the local tax base. And getting into a few that are upcoming, hopefully we'll see a bunch of you at the Battery Lane Park Refresher that's coming up on November 9th. As you know, the Refreshers is a relatively new program where we're trying to do quicker, less costly, but valued improvements to our older parks. And this is a great example of one that is 99% done at this point. And then probably one of the most important projects we'll do during my time here is the Henson Museum. It's under construction. The goal of that project is to create a museum dedicated to telling the story of resilience and perseverance in overcoming slavery based on the detailed words and experiences of Josiah Henson, who was enslaved in Montgomery County for most of his life. The goal of the project is to create a museum dedicated, the project includes the conversion of the historic Riley Bolton House into a public museum, construction of a new 3,000 square foot visitor center, and the installation of exhibits that educate and interpret African American history in Montgomery County, including a first-person narrative of Josiah Henson. So we're under construction. We should be open in about a year, and that is certainly one I hope to see all of you at when we cut the ribbon. I'm winding down. We related to CIP projects, capital projects, we are done with the planning board preparing our next CIP, which will come up to you on November 1st. We did develop our own equity tool to assess priority of relative projects in the CIP. We did come up and talk about this a little bit with the Joint Committee several weeks ago when the Planning Department was up here talking about equity initiatives. It's just a start. We used median area household income and predominant race and ethnicity to map areas. We're looking at a whole bunch of other demographic data in partnership with our Planning Department to advance this tool, and we certainly want to work with council staff and OMB staff to talk about how we can contribute more broadly towards thinking going on in county government and elsewhere. Another thing related to capital projects we're very excited about, we developed design guidelines for urban parks. This is really something that follows up on the Energized Public Spaces Functional Master Plan that you approved. That master plan really was about supply and demand. This now is the next step where you identify low levels of service. It's about how you're going to provide great urban spaces. It really focuses on case studies around the world, a lot of pictures, a lot of descriptors about how you achieve a great public space, and it'll be used by both the public and the private sector. In all cases going forward, we want to have great public spaces. The Park Refresher Program I already talked to you about. I just wanted to give you a highlight of some of the status of the projects between completed, under construction, and future. This graphic here is a graphic of Silver Spring Intermediate Park and how that will be transformed. And again, we're really behind this program of trying to get to more parks sooner than later and to spread the investment equitably around the county. And that park, I do want to add for Councilmember Reamer's benefit, will include a futsal court in it. Volunteer programs I'm going to wrap up with. I always need to brag about our volunteers. Even though it's them doing the work, the program continues to grow. We couldn't manage the park system without them. FY19, we tagged 11,000 different volunteers who contributed 71,000 hours of service. They participated in more than 30 different volunteer programs. And the photos here, just FYI, are from Acing Autism, summer camps, Wings of Fancy Butterfly Show, Keeping Our Parks and Streams Clean, and then movie nights and trail construction. So we have all these different passionate advocates for different components of the park system, and we continue to marshal them to all of our benefit. A little bit more on the cleanups and the corporate volunteers in particular. Some stats here. We do work quite a bit with corporations. We had over 1,000 corporate volunteers dedicate 24,000 hours of service. That came from about 30 different corporations across the county. And then we continue to remove a lot of trash from our streams, which is both good and bad. It's good that we get the trash out. It's bad that we got so much trash coming into our streams. So I'll continue to work with DEP on strategies about how we can perhaps avoid some of that. And then, thank you. This is Mudfest. My staff here was closing with a beautiful, iconic picture of Brookside Gardens. They had that beautiful photo of the Japanese tea garden with the fall leaves in the background. But kind of given where we're going with the new and exciting programs, I didn't want to close with that. I needed to close with something that was a little bit more current and down and dirty, so I just wanted to show you that we are willing to go to the extremes, and we're not going to stop doing these programs until the residents are knocking down your doors saying we've gone too far. Hopefully we won't get there, but we really want to do creative community building events in our parks. Thank you.
Thank you. That's an awesome presentation. Let me turn first to our lead for parks, Councilmember Friedson.
Thank you so much, Council President, and thank you for the presentation. It was terrific, and I think creative community building was a good way to put it. Now, the Council President noted the music in the video, the energy that our Parks Department currently has, and the activities that are happening in our 37,000 acres of parks is really remarkable and seems to just be getting better and better. It's one of the reasons why I'm really proud of the fact that we restored the $1.9 million during the budget. I think this council stands by you, stands with you. I'm proud of that work that we were able to do, and if ever there was a reinforcement of the need for it, it's what we just heard for the last several minutes of the importance to our quality of life, the importance to our community building and our placemaking activities, the importance with our trail network of our transportation network, and our environmental sustainability, as you really thoroughly talk through. So thank you for rewarding us with the work that you and your terrific team at Parks are doing every day, and it really is greatly appreciated, and thank you for being good stewards of that taxpayer money and really trying to get a lot out of what we're investing. I, as you know, live right by the Battery Lane Park, and I've seen firsthand the amount of new activity that has been generated from that refresh for a relatively modest amount of taxpayer dollars compared to as was previously done. We're getting the same benefit of the number of young families, the number of people who are playing tennis and basketball again, who are using that new refurbished playground, really of broad ages. Every time I walk through it and am visiting it, it really is has a new sense of life. So that is absolutely terrific, and I'm glad you brought up and had mentioned in here the Ridge Road Recreational Park inline hockey facility. I had the great pleasure of being there for the kickoff to that with Commissioner Verma and Commissioner Fanny Gonzalez. We all three were there, and it was just an amazing day. I think the best part of it was seeing the clinic afterwards, where I think there was 100, 125 young people, many of whom had never held a hockey stick before, had never been on a facility like that before, and were provided that opportunity in the Up County. I just thought was an amazing way to expand the game and provide a huge community benefit. I'm looking forward to the Dewey facility as well, and I think it's just a great example of what the future can hold with public-private partnerships. And so I really appreciate the efforts that have been undertaken by the Planning Board and to each of you and by the staff at Parks to really focus on how do we stretch the limited dollars that we have to get the type of world-class facilities that our residents expect. And I also wanted to thank you for the fields update. One of my questions was about that update, and I appreciate all the work. My staff has been participating in the work group and really appreciate the work that you're doing. I think if ever there was a story in pictures, it was the before and after pictures of what the fields look like before you took them over and what they look like now after you've taken them over. And you know, those are the types of fields that our residents expect, that our young people and our residents need to be able to do the type of activities that they want so they can play the world's most popular game. We're going to need a facility. I think Councilmember Albornoz is organizing a game coming soon, and we're going to need a field that doesn't make me any worse at soccer than I already am. But it really is terrific. I look forward to continuing that effort, and I know the council really has been pushing for that for quite some time and continues to push for the funding necessary to make sure that you have the resources to take over those fields. They look like the way that they do. So just a few questions besides a long-winded thank you. Could have said it in 2 words, but here I am. But the first question is, you could just give us an update on the PIP in Bethesda, and just where things are with the PIP, and how much money we expect to receive over the next half year or year, and when we expect to deploy those funds.
I'm going to ask for a little bit of help from Gwen Wright on the money side of things.
I believe to date we have taken in and actually received over $6 million, and that we have several other projects that are going to be contributing probably at least another $2 million in the next 6 months or so. In terms of how that money is being expended, I need to turn that over to Mike.
So without mentioning very particular projects, as you know, there's a lot of fairly ambitious recommendations in the master plan. A lot of them depend on timing of certain things. Certainly I would prefer to be able to get my staff's latest update and reply about any specific timelines and specific projects.
Got it. Any sense of when we expect the projects, the money for the project to begin to be deployed?
We do have in the CIP submission the appropriation of the funds. So it will be available for the funds that are received and anticipated to be received. In the CIP that is coming up to you, there will be a unique PDF for the PIP.
So starting next fiscal year?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Dog parks, and you mentioned urban parks as well. I want to thank you for all the work that you've done. The pop-up dog parks have been terrific. They've been really well attended. Even one of those that I was at in the rain at Elm Street, one was good weather, one was lousy weather. Even the lousy weather had folks, which to me demonstrates the demand. I think the Ellsworth Urban Dog Park is a terrific example of incorporating the community and the surroundings into the park itself. I'm hoping that that's a model moving forward, but with thanks for the work that you're looking at the dog park, and at the risk of a Washington Post reporter in here publishing an article about Montgomery County dog parks, could you just share with us timelines and thoughts for additional dog parks, particularly in the down county area?
So, as you know, we completed what we called a site suitability study. So that was identifying the locations in our park that we believe can accommodate a dog park. That's completed. Again, it's similar that in our CIP we will have in a PDF called Urban Parks Elements an annual allocation beginning in FY21 to begin building dog parks. We know that there is a high level of need in the down county area, particularly in the Bethesda area, and we're in the process of looking at the sites that were identified in those geographies to determine which ones should come first. So right now we're in the staff level of evaluating that, and then as soon as we have our recommendations, we will go out to the public, talk about which sites should go first, what are the priorities.
And any specific ideas of timeline on that?
We would be able to go to construction on the first one in fiscal year 21.
Got it, great. Okay, so both are in that general time frame.
Yes.
Great, and you mentioned Warner Mansion. I just wanted to express my interest in seeing that site be activated. It is a critical part of Kensington, a critical part of the county. It's really the central area. I don't need to tell you as a resident of Kensington, but anything that I can do and that we can do on the council to help move that along to make sure that the community is realizing the potential of that key area and key not only the building but the property itself, I think is really important for the park system, for the community, for the county. So I would love to be helpful there. So thank you very much. Appreciate all your work that you're doing, and I continue to be extremely excited. I think that our park system is one of the reasons why Montgomery County is such a great place to live. It's why residents want to be here. It's great for all people of all ages, and I just appreciate the work that you're continuing to do to make it that way and to push the envelope to keep innovating and energizing and activating the space so that it stays relevant for our residents. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a great team, and I just need to thank them. And if I may, I realize I was negligent when I got to my athletic field slide of asking our athletic field program manager, Cliff Driver, to raise his hand. He's the guy responsible for those before and after pictures.
Councilmember Rice.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you to our lead for parks for continuing to be a great advocate for something that's so important to our community. You're going to hear a lot of compliments from a lot of folks about all the things that we're doing great. So normally my accolades I'm going to leave to my colleagues and talk about some of the things that I think that we can do a little bit better because we're always striving to serve our community even better than we have been before. And we've been able to achieve some great accomplishments, but I think we have a number of things that we can do a little bit better. One of them is communication with the community. And so when it came to Adventure Park over at South Germantown Recreational Park, it was notification that came to us through a Facebook message, through a constituent that highlighted the fact that some of the key components of that park had been removed. Elected officials nor members of the community knew nothing about it. And so when we're doing things like that that we know are so pivotal to our Parks Department, which matters so much to our community, we've got to make sure that we have a robust communication strategy. We've had a couple of missteps when it came to planning side, when we had some of our sidewalks and things like that in the Bethesda area that were shut down and really didn't, and so it continues to be a theme of how we need to get out in front of these things ahead of time and make sure that we're just letting the community know. Again, these are things that need to happen. I understand completely about why we can't have safe equipment, unsafe equipment that's there for our kids. We didn't have the materials. Thank you for getting back to me right away. But it would be so much easier if we have that information ahead of time before we do those kinds of things, just to let folks know. When it comes to our parks, they're phenomenal. But I think we also have to be very vigilant about what it is that we're doing in terms of programming in our parks and making sure that we continue the culturally and ethnically diverse programming that happens in the park, reaching out to some of our harder served communities, making sure that they're aware of what's there and how they can get to it. And I think that's one of the keys that I think will help us in terms of ensuring that we have utilization and, from folks in our community who aren't using our parks right now, is about getting that information about how to get there, what the transportation modalities are. You know, a lot of our things are served by ride-on, and that's great, but a lot of people don't know that and say, hey, if you're trying to get to such and such, these are the ride-on routes, and having a connection. We're about to have it. I'm going to address the same thing with our transportation director and talk about how we can do a better job of selling our routes to people, because although our routes may take a little bit of a longer time, especially in the up county, the reality is that it still makes them accessible, and a lot of people don't know that or realize that, people who don't have cars, and so it really is great to make sure, and that will help to develop that more ethnically diverse utilization of our parks. The other two, so you guys are doing an e-scooter pilot. There are a number of us up here on the dais who are really concerned about e-scooters. Again, it's one in which, and it's not about the e-scooters themselves, but it's about, unfortunately, how our constituents treat them. And leaving them strewn about. We already have accessibility issues in our park as it is. We spent a lot of money when it came to Black Hills in terms of accessibility. My concern is that someone who decides to leave their e-scooter parked right next to a bridge as they go down and explore in the stream or creek and leave their scooter there, and then becomes an obstacle for somebody with a disability, something we've seen far too often on our sidewalks. And so that's just something to be cognizant of. So if we are allowing them, making sure that they're advising riders to keep those routes clear, because people with disabilities may be using them and may want to. So again, just caution, not a don't do it, but just cautionary things that we need to incorporate. Two other things very quickly. Artificial turf fields. And thank you so much for what you're doing and partnering with our schools. You guys are phenomenal, so I'm throwing in some praise there. The concern I have is that, we've been looking at zeolite and some of the others, but there are a lot of new hybrids that are coming out. And so I hope when we're looking at these other kinds of organic hybrids that are out there, the sand that now is risen to the level of folks saying this is better than coconut is, we may need to look at some language change in terms of our resolution to allow for these organic hybrids to come about, but I hear that they're better and more effective than some of our other infills are, and so from those areas, we certainly need to look at all of these different options, so I look forward to working with you, and if you already have any information about that and are looking at those kinds of things, that'll be incredibly helpful for us as well, just to know, as we hear from community members about they still want, as we have these couple of rainy days, and what it does and how it impacts playability. These are all the things, and we can just look at the last Washington football team's game and see what happened there. And certainly, it's one where it highlights the fact of how we need to have fields that are resilient if we're going to have kids that are playing on them. Last one is just a question. About the seed classroom, and I know that there's been fundraising efforts for that. How is that going? Do we need to engage the community? Do we need to do more? What's the status on that?
So that will also be a standalone project in the CIP that's coming to you. We've engaged our Park Foundation to raise funds. We just installed a new Park Foundation executive director in the last month, Katie Richter, who started with us. She's got several priorities, including Josiah Henson and the seed classroom, so we will be able to report back, hopefully, some success going forward.
What was our goal and where are we at as far as that goes?
I'll have to get back to you on the specific numbers. I don't have them.
All right, and I do see that Mr. Tibbetts is here, so certainly please signal to the county executive that when it comes to both the programming as well as the seed classroom as a part of this great project that is going to certainly be something that's incredibly valuable to the community, we want to make sure we're doing all we can to ensure that that happens. So let me close by just saying, Mike, I'm a huge fan of yours. You know it. You're doing great things in this community, doing great things with parks, and we're really looking to take it to the next level under your continued leadership and with all the folks who work hard every single day in your department to make these things happen for the community. We really appreciate them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Albornoz.
Thank you, Madam President. Mike, I really appreciate and respect your team's work. I had a front row seat for a number of years and know how dedicated you and your volunteers are, so thank you for that continued leadership. I'm channeling my 6-year-old son here in that mud event I'm sure he will want to be at next year, so want to get more details about when that will happen. Just a couple thoughts. One, I want to highlight, I mentioned this the last time you did your briefing, but really acknowledge the work you're doing in the special needs space to really make parks not just more accessible and adaptable from a design standpoint, but you're activating these parks and providing support services for our special needs families that is critically important, and I want to elevate that work and encourage you to continue down that path. And with regards to fields, so it's great that we are conducting these renovations, and the new Bermuda grass gives us a fighting chance of at least coming close to meeting the demand that's out there. But as we all know, the practical reality is all it takes is folks playing on a day like today or yesterday when they're not supposed to take us many steps back. So the maintenance of these fields and the ongoing education, I think, is going to be critically important. And please, as you deliberate and put your budgets together, I know I, for one, am going to be really interested in looking at that maintenance budget and ensuring that it's sufficient to not have us waste all this money that we're spending on the conversions on the front end. And so I think that will be a wise investment. And I know there are some creative solutions to partnerships we're looking at with MCCPTA and others to help round out some volunteers. But I think that will be really helpful. And just two final things. I love the futsal movement because I think that will help offshoot some of the use on the fields and will put us in a better position to meet the growing diverse needs and interests of our residents. But there's another concept, and I've talked to you about this before, that we may want to explore, but having 1 or 2 fields per region actually not be programmed, and to have them specifically be for drop-in use, not unlike a basketball court, so that it's a good thing that there's so many people interested in wanting to access these fields. But obviously we just don't have the capacity, and we have the ongoing challenges of the disruption and permitted use. But if there were some fields that were not programmed but were still of high quality or similar quality, then I think that would help strategically. So thank you for your continued leadership in this space, and look forward to supporting you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciated Councilmember Rice's comment about the transportation, something that I've been also discussing with Mr. Conklin, who we are going to interview this evening, regarding some possible pilots, for example, Wheaton Library to Brookside Gardens or things of that sort, to just amplify the access to many of these assets. So hopefully, I know it's always about money, so we'll figure that out. So in closing, I just wanted to ask you about the procurement status for the Wheaton Regional Park, the carousel that folks keep asking me about. Do we have a status report on that?
For the Ovid Hazen Wells carousel will ultimately move.
Right, I'm talking about the replacement.
The replacement, well, it's all dependent upon, the new carousel at Wheaton will come in right behind when we move the old one to Ovid Hazen Wells. I can't tell you off the top of my head what fiscal year that is, but Ovid Hazen Wells is fully funded in the 6-year CIP that's coming to you. and our enterprise fund has budgeted for the replacement carousel to come right in behind it.
Excellent.
So there will likely not be a historic carousel, but I imagine it will be the latest and greatest type of carousel.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate all your hard work and your staff. It's you know, we say it time and time again, but obviously this is front and center with our quality of life and what makes our county so attractive. And we all partake and use the parks so much that it's truly one of our biggest assets. And really appreciate your just creativity around how to constantly program it and make it more accessible. It's really awesome.
Thank you so much. I do want to point out that a lot of the resources behind the initiatives I showed you are resources that you approved in the last 4 years through the reconciliation process.
Yes.
So
thank you for mentioning that.
That's my self-serving closing is, if you provide the resources, we will deliver.
I appreciate that. I really do. All right, so let's move on to the next chapter.
Great. It's always hard going second, especially as it's getting close to lunchtime and folks are looking to get out to lunch. But I'm going to move quickly through our planning projects. We have a couple of short videos, and we will get through it relatively quickly so we can address any questions or comments you may have. For our semi-annual, next slide, the main thing I want to really focus on is our Thrive Montgomery 2050 update to the general plan. And I think all of you know about this and know that our focus is on the 3 E's: equitable communities, economic health, and environmental resilience. But we have 3 other E's, which are the phases of this project. And we are in and just finishing what we call the excite phase of this project, where we're trying to make sure that there is not a resident of Montgomery County that doesn't know we're updating the general plan, and to get the word out and to begin to get input. We're transitioning right now into our second step of the process, which is educate. And you're going to see us doing a series of webinars, speaker series, other kinds of activities to sort of drill down into some of the issues and topics that we've heard mentioned in all of our community outreach, and begin to do some education on those topics. And then the third part is really going to be engaging, where we're going to start talking about specific recommendations and policies. And we are on schedule. I know that the council was very concerned that we stay on schedule. I can report that we are, but it has been a busy few months. So if we go to the next slide, I want to emphasize our work on Excite, getting the word out to everyone in the county that this project is happening. And I think we have a short video about some of the activities that we have done over the course of the summer and early fall.
Has begun. We're so excited, and we're out here to hear about what people think about Montgomery County in the next 30 years. What's their vision for how Montgomery County can grow and change and thrive over the next 30 years?
When we talk about livable, walkable, accessible communities, when we talk about the type of place where we want residents to live, where we want businesses to be able to thrive, where we want everybody to have access to our community, those decisions don't happen by chance, they happen by choice. And those choices are being made, and I hope that everybody has their voice heard and is part of the conversation, so we can make sure we have a community that's focused on equity, that's focused on our environmental sustainability, and that's focused on how to make sure that we are building an economy that is thriving for the future.
We have 3 of the most diverse cities in the country here in Montgomery County. Silver Spring, we're in one right now, Germantown and Gaithersburg. We want to talk to everyone in those communities to hear what do they want to see as far as transit being more reliable, what do they want to see as far as safety, making sure that there's amenities in their community. So it's really important people engage, because this is going to decide and lay the groundwork for future generations. So we're out here talking to people one-on-one and really hope that people engage in this process.
So I really want to, again, give a lot of kudos to our staff. They have worked really hard, evenings, weekends. You know, everyone has really pitched in to staff these many events. And I want to thank the council members who have attended. We've had really all of the council members have attended one or more of our events, and that's been very, very important. One of our commitments to you at the outset of this project was that we were going to keep working with you hand in glove from the outset of this project, so that when we actually deliver a draft plan to you, there will be no surprises, and that continues to be our commitment. If we go to the next slide, one of the things, again, I think that's very unique about this effort, and that really is tied in with the overall goal of equitable communities, is the outreach we've been doing. In addition to the events, we've had a very robust advertising campaign, and including on Metro and on Metro buses, so that I hope some of you may have seen a bus driving by with some information about Thrive Montgomery, or perhaps seen this information on something in a Metro station. Next. We also are working very, very hard to make sure that we are reaching out to people who may not speak English as their first language, and we certainly are reaching out to folks who are in the Spanish-speaking media, but we also have had amazing coverage in some Asian language newspapers and publications as well, and we are working very hard to be as welcoming and sort of inclusive in getting the word out as we possibly can. Next. One of the things that we've done is we do have a very specific web page in Spanish, so that people who may be more comfortable reading about our Thrive Montgomery effort in Spanish are able to do that. We also have the ability to have our fact sheet downloaded in multiple languages, so that anyone going to our website has an opportunity to read about this project in the language that they are most comfortable with. Next. So even though we're working on the general plan, that's a huge amount of our work. It's taking a great deal of staff time and effort. We are even now working forward in those 3 subject areas of equitable communities, economic health, and environmental resiliency. We aren't waiting for the plan to be done. We are actually working in those areas. In terms of equitable communities, I'd like to emphasize our Vision Zero efforts and our housing initiatives. Next. In terms of Vision Zero, we are kicking off right now our pedestrian master plan, and we've had a series of community meetings around the county, and we're getting great attendance and great input at those meetings. We're also finishing up our Aspen Hill Vision Zero study, and that's going to be presented to the board in the next month or so. We are looking at Vision Zero as part of the Forest Glen Montgomery Hill Sector Plan, which the council has received, and you'll be holding a public hearing on November 12th about that. And we think that's also an extremely important discussion about that corridor of Georgia Avenue in the Forest Glen, Montgomery Hills area, and thinking about the Vision Zero issue. We also have projects like the Bicycle Master Plan, the Veers Mill Corridor Plan, the Mark Rail Communities Plan, where we are working to implement all of the recommendations in those plans. Those are complete, but the work doesn't stop once the plan is complete, because we work closely with our colleagues in Montgomery County Department of Transportation and Department of Housing and Community Affairs and all of our other colleagues to implement the important aspects of these plans, including the Vision Zero aspects. Next, I want to talk just again briefly about the pedestrian master plan, which is again taking a lot of our time and effort right now. In addition to the community meetings, we're doing a really robust digital outreach effort. We have a whole Twitter effort going on and giving the opportunity for people around the county to tweet us and tag us to share videos and pictures of their pedestrian experiences. Our project manager, Eli Glazier, is in the example you see here, sharing his walk to work in downtown Silver Spring, and we have examples of other tweets that we have received where folks are sharing some of their experiences and thoughts. So this project, again, is sort of just at the beginning. We're getting the word out. We're trying to get input about what pedestrian experiences there are in the county. Just as we did with the bicycle master plan, we're doing a very robust mapping exercise of all of our pedestrian routes, and we're going to come up with, we hope, very detailed recommendations about where the pedestrian experience can and should be prioritized and enhanced. Next. In terms of housing initiatives, you know, I'm going to not focus a whole lot on this because I feel like I've been with the council recently to talk about the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments regional housing targets and the importance of additional housing. But I will tell you, and we've also talked with the Fed committee recently about missing middle, and we've had a robust dialogue on accessory dwelling units, but there are new things that are going on in the planning department. We've just kicked off a project that's in our fiscal year 20 budget to study preservation of affordable housing, and we have a really great stakeholder group working with us on that. And we continue to work very, very closely with the Purple Line Corridor Housing Group, and they've just been coming up with their draft of their housing action plan, and we have been working closely with them on that, and will continue to work closely on implementation ideas. We have been a big supporter of the Purple Line Corridor Coalition from the beginning, and we are continuing that strong connection. One of the things that helps with that is that a lot of the folks involved with that are also involved with the National Center for Smart Growth, and we have an annual partnership with the National Center for Smart Growth that we've been doing for about 7 or 8 years, where they help us with expertise. They help plan our Makeover Montgomery conferences. So we have a really, really close connection with them, and that's been part of our collaboration on the work on the Purple Line Corridor Housing Action Plan. Next. In terms of economic health, we are feeling very good about our development projects. Some of the council members attended last week our Design Excellence award ceremony. At that event, we highlighted some of the truly outstanding projects in Montgomery County. We had a short video about projects in Bethesda, but the projects that were winning the awards tended to be in other parts of the county, including Glenstone, which is an amazing facility for the county in Potomac, the Pearl, which is a residential building in Silver Spring, and the Unisphere project at United Therapeutics in downtown Silver Spring. In addition to celebrating a lot of the great work that's going on, we are looking at ways to further promote that great work. We're kicking off and working on our 2020 update to the subdivision staging policy to take a look at how our efforts to balance infrastructure and growth are working, and if we need to make any changes in that regard. We are doing an agritourism study. In fact, this coming Thursday, the board is going to be spending time going out to a number of the businesses in the ag reserve. Agritourism is about how our ag reserve is really an economic resource to the county. It is not simply about preservation of open space. It is where we have active farms and active businesses, breweries, wineries, pick your own facilities that are contributing to the economic health of Montgomery County. And of course, I think you all know about our Wheaton headquarters. But the next thing, subdivision stage, and again, we talked about that briefly. You know, it's updated every 4 years. We've just kicked it off this month, and you're going to be hearing lots more about that as we get into each of the stakeholder working groups and their thoughts and ideas. Next. So I want to talk briefly about placemaking. Again, a big effort, and what I always say in that's a wonderful opportunity where we partner with our colleagues in parks, but our focus is a little bit different. We are doing placemaking not just to activate in pieces of parkland or civic spaces in Montgomery County. We do placemaking in areas where we may have done a master plan but haven't seen as much change or growth. And we are doing these placemaking events to help the property owners and the community really envision what could happen if our plans get implemented. So with that, I'd like to go to a short video. And this video focuses on Burtonsville.
Oh, today is an amazing event. It is our Burtonsville placemaking activity, and it is just incredible. We're building a better Burtonsville, and we have tons of activities and lots of people who come out to enjoy what Burtonsville can be. We're envisioning a great future for this property and for all of Burtonsville.
So placemaking is really about how do we take the spaces that are outside of our homes, outside of our workplaces, and make them inviting places for anybody in the community to spend time. We want them to be attractive places, places where people can have fun, where they can gather, where they can just hang out. And, you know, sometimes it's hard to find places like that in a lot of communities. And so that's why we've been partnering with a number of communities throughout Montgomery County to do these placemaking events, so that we can kind of plant the seeds for more placemaking activities in the future.
Burtonsville is a hidden gem here in Montgomery County. It's tucked away in the northeast corner, and a lot of people only know it because they drive through it. But this event and the community leaders who have been working hard to build a better Burtonsville are going to put Burtonsville back on the map. And where we are right now is ground zero, making sure that this desolate strip mall really becomes a thriving community center and hub.
Anytime you have a grassroots event like this where the community is coming out and saying, we want activities change and things to do, rather than going to Columbia, rather than going to downtown Silver Spring, right here in our community, that is an indication that people are ready for change. They're ready for redevelopment. And I'm hoping with the BRT coming in, that people are going to relook at this beautiful, large space that has a lot of potential. And so I'm hoping that will happen.
Sometimes you have to show people what's possible before they can really see it, even in their mind. And so this is a great way to harness the power of the neighborhood's imagination, their aspirations, and try to not just sketch out what can be here in the future, but really build it and demonstrate what's possible.
Today, we're taking over an empty parking lot, empty shopping center, thanks to Eden for doing that. And the community has basically embraced the space. They have brought color, they have brought music, arts, entertainment, and the spirit of this community that wants spaces to really be vibrant and be part of who they are. I am so happy and thrilled to see the community coming together, people from all different backgrounds joining, eating, dancing. This is what Montgomery County is all about, and we want to see more of this across the county.
It's important that we engage in placemaking activities. It's an opportunity for individuals in the community to find out about the resources that are available to them, whether it's parks, planning, or other organizations, other county organizations, other nonprofit agencies, but it's an opportunity to connect. For individuals in the community, they want to feel that they belong, and that this is a way to find out what options are available to them, whether it's putt-putt or opportunity to throw a ball with a neighbor or find out what's happening in your neighborhoods. It's one of those ways to find out what's next and how they can be involved.
Show us what the potential is. You know, I mean, this is an amazing community. You know, we have an empty shopping center that is we're really struggling to figure out how can we revitalize. And sometimes you can forget just how many people there are who are waiting for something like this to come together for. And so just a reminder of what we can accomplish if we can really focus and make things happen.
I think it's fantastic. Staff has really helped out a lot here getting this going, bringing in the community. I think that's important. All of our planning efforts to really try to incorporate what's important to the community and try to get them involved.
So again, thank you to, I want to again thank our staff. It really may not seem like this is all done very easily, like poof, we put together an event. I had staff in one of my area teams working literally since June on making that event happen. So it's a lot of work, but we think it's worth the work because of all the comments that were in the video. Next, it's not the only placemaking we've been doing. You fund placemaking in the planning department budget. That helps with a big event like Burtonsville, but we've also had a series of other events, including a set of Silver Spring art walks, where we actually partnered with some of the local businesses to start the art walks at those businesses that support those businesses, and then get out into the neighborhood and look at the great art, murals, sculpture that have already been produced. Next. And we've worked very collaboratively with our Parks Department and with the community on Long Branch Week. And it has been, it was a huge success. I think everyone really, again, could begin to envision what a cool, exciting, and inclusive neighborhood Long Branch can be. And we keep doing things. I just wanted to mention our historic preservation section. We talked about Warner Circle Park has a 6-mile Victorian architecture bike tour this Saturday that starts at Warner Circle Park. So there are more events happening all the time. Next. Again, we briefly talked about the agritourism study. It's going to be completed this winter. We have a very, very diverse group of stakeholders on our agritourism advisory committee who have been working together to really address, you know, the evolving nature of farming and farmland and promoting our ag reserve as an economic asset to the county. Next, again, just mentioning our Wheaton headquarters building. We're going to be moving in the summer of 2020, and we're very excited. We feel like this building, which is going to add in total, including all agencies, over 700 employees in downtown Wheaton, will be a game changer. It is going to create a market for more restaurants, businesses, and other kinds of economic development. It is going to give that 24/7 kind of experience to downtown Wheaton, and it's going to be a beautiful LEED Platinum building as well. In terms of economic health, we do want to mention that part of our existing fiscal year 20 work program has us kicking off a Silver Spring master plan amendment, and we're working on that and studying that. That will be kicked off later in the spring. And we're doing a White Flint 10-year checkup, which really focuses on the WMATA site, which is sort of a gap between the metro and all the great things happening at Pike and Rose, and how we might be able to put some additional ideas in place to incentivize WMATA to move forward on that piece of property. They had a partnership agreement with a private developer, which has now lapsed, and so it is in WMATA's court to really address that gap, which we think is such an important property along Rockville Pike, the Pike District. Pike and Rose has been doing its share. We need other properties to step up and do their share as well. Speaking of development, I do want to just emphasize that we have again, an amazing collection of projects. They are not all in Bethesda, although I'm sure some people might think that all the construction in the world is going on in Bethesda, because it is very busy there. We have other major development projects in other parts of the county, including the Autolus project, which is under construction in the Great Seneca Science Corridor. Major upgrades to Cabin John Village, which is taking, again, an older strip shopping center and really bringing it into the 21st century. One of our favorite Bethesda projects, the Metro Tower, which is just next to the Wilson and is going to be part of a really amazing stretch of outstanding architecture in Bethesda. The Westwood Shopping Center, which we believe is going to hopefully finally move forward. And finally, we are thrilled about the Washington Adventist Hospital and believe that that is, again, the beginning of a lot of very positive change in the White Oak community. In terms of environmental resilience, we are very engaged in tree planting programs. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. In partnering with our colleagues in the executive branch on the Montgomery County Climate Action Plan, we're supporting many aspects of that plan. On developing our Complete Streets design guides, on historic preservation efforts, including our burial sites inventory, and on updating our rustic roads functional master plan. In terms of tree planting, one of the things I'm really proud of is that we've had a variety of tree planting programs. Relieving the Reserve is our newest, which is a partnership with the Countryside Alliance. But we've also had Leaves for Neighborhoods and a program called Shades of Green, where we help folks buy trees to plant on their own property. We've actually hired and have in place one person who is working on all of these tree programs. It had been sort of spread out throughout our department. No one sort of had time to focus on these efforts. It was always something that they did when they were finished with the rest of their work. Now we have one person, because one of the main things we believe can change the way things are going in terms of our climate is by improving our canopy cover, by having more trees everywhere in the county, in our urban areas, in our suburban areas, and even in the Ag Reserve. So we're very excited to do this. A lot of these programs are funded from our fee in lieu and our penalty fund, so we aren't asking for more money from the taxpayers to do this. These are being funded by fees that are coming in through our forest conservation program. Next, climate change. Again, I mentioned how engaged we are with Montgomery County's Climate Action Plan. We also are doing a lot of work in terms of our own organization, in terms of sustainability, not only having a LEED Platinum building as our new headquarters, but doing a lot of work to improve our recycling efforts, having a fleet of cars that are all hybrids so that we can, and moving into perhaps a few electric cars as well, so that we can not only talk the talk but walk the walk as an organization. And the final thing we have is our work program schedule. Between the general plan, Thrive Montgomery, and the subdivision staging policy, we are still doing master plans, including the Forest Glen Montgomery Hills plan, as I mentioned, that you're going to be seeing 3 smaller plans that you will see relatively soon: the Germantown plan for the town sector zone, the Shady Grove minor master plan amendment, and the Ashton minor master plan amendment, and kicking off work, as mentioned, on the Silver Spring master plan. So we're busy, but we continue to feel like we're moving the county in a very positive direction, that we are talking to people, reaching people who we have never engaged with before, and that we are seeing the results of a lot of this work in very, very high quality and positive development projects that are being built. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Director Wright. This is a very wonderful and very thorough report with so many innovative activities. Thank you so much for hosting the Burnsville placemaking event. I oftentimes, have been really frustrated with the fact that we sometimes have these reports, like these market reports, that talk about how, this is not an area that can sustain particular type of retail, or no, the demographics don't really support this or the other, and the income levels, et cetera. And we know on the ground, those of us who frequent those areas a lot, that that's not the case. And as you stated, once you bring it there, you can see the energy and the amount of people that showed up. Really, truly, I think is, a really wonderful way of having evidence that something can be possible, and that the pent-up demand is quite large. So I really, was so excited when I saw that happening, because it really, I think, has validated for so many people and so many residents who time and time again wonder how come nothing has happened in that particular shopping center. So again, I think that was just really great. Councilmember Reamer.
All right, thank you. Great presentations. Really excited about the work program. There was so much I wanted to say about the parks, but I had to check myself because I knew we were going to be coming up late and still needing to talk about a lot here as well. Really excited about all of the work that's going on. The planning team here is amazing, and your work program is fantastic. So thank you. We had talked about council members trying to take an active role in promoting community engagement in the Thrive Montgomery, the general plan update. I think that's something we just need to all keep in our minds about how we can partner up and support that so that it can move expeditiously. Wanted to touch on an issue related to our economic health, and we've been discussing this. Well, actually, before I get to that one, I wanted to just comment on the Purple Line Corridor. Thank you for your continuing work in the Purple Line Corridor Housing Action Plan Group. I really think we need to get to the point of a written plan that very granularly projects the pipeline and the zoning capacity of all the properties in the Purple Line and what it will take for us to hit the affordable housing goal that has been established by the PLCC. And my general sense is that it's attainable if we can get financing targeted into the corridor and get some of our mission-driven nonprofit developers in there. But I don't really know. I'd like to know really very specifically how close are we, what additional steps do we have to take, how can we organize county resources to achieve the housing goal, so that I think that'll help us move with more confidence on some of the economic development goals that we have for the Purple Line as well. We want to recruit companies to locate in Silver Spring, in Bethesda, in Tacoma Langley. We want to see growth and change in the corridor, but we also want it to be an inclusive place that is affordable to people at different levels of income. So in order to do that, we're going to be very intentional. And again, I just want to say, I think we need a written plan that has taken into account the pipeline, existing property, what zoning capacity allows, what we think is realistic, and what, if any, additional changes we might need to consider in order to hit the goal. To the question about economic health and the Great Seneca Science Corridor that I would like to raise, about 10 years ago, the council adopted the Great Seneca Science Corridor Master Plan. It was premised on the vision of the Quarter Cities Transitway, and there was a lot of optimism that the Quarter Cities Transitway was coming. It was just around the bend, but I think it was going in the other direction, unfortunately. And we need to really step up and try to perform some CPR on the Quarter Cities Transitway. And there has been a lot of work, as you know, everyone knows, over the last number of years with private property owners along the corridor, many of whom are potentially willing to pay into a tax district that would fund a part of the cost of building the Purple Line. I really think we need to task the executive branch with getting really focused on the Quarter Cities Transitway and asking MCDOT to grab this thing, work with property owners, come up with a financing strategy that blends local, federal, and state funding, and maybe we can get the state funding down to an affordable level that we would have a better shot trying to get the state decision makers to get behind. But I think that as part of that, we need to really revise the staging that we put into the Great Seneca Science Corridor Master Plan. We were very overly optimistic about how soon the CCT was going to come, and as a result, we really now have almost an effective moratorium in that part of the county, which is really the core of our biohealth cluster. You noted that Autolus, the company that we successfully recruited to the company, is setting up right there in the Great Seneca Science Corridor. That's where they want to be, because that is where a lot of the other bio-related companies are located. That's where the National Cancer Institute is. We need to do more to commercialize our federal research presence. Having development right around the National Cancer Institute is at the core of that kind of strategy. There's this amazing company, there's so many amazing companies there, but American Gene Technologies, they really believe they are on the verge of announcing a cure for HIV, which they will achieve through a technology platform that they license out of the National Cancer Institute to edit genes. The CEO says that when they make that announcement, they want to grow in a very significant way right there in that neighborhood. That's where they want to be, is in the Great Seneca Science Corridor. Unfortunately, the development capacity, again, has been locked up. Hopkins has a big chunk of it, and I'm sure they'll use it over time, but it could be a long-term playing out. The private sector needs other places to go. So I wanted to put before the council the need and the opportunity to revise Stage 2. It would be a very discrete component of the Great Seneca Science Corridor that would allow for some share of that development to move forward. at the same time as we are working overtime to try to revive the CCT. I really believe the best argument we can make for the state to invest in the Quarter Cities Transitway is to have a growing, thriving economic hub in that area. That'll make the case better than any contingent plan. We can't go to them and say, please fund this so that one day we can have development. We need to say, we've got development, you need to fund this. So before us is a memo. I want to thank Glenn Orland for his assistance in preparing this, and I've had a chance to talk with the planning folks about it that would have the planning department and the board consider an amendment to stage 2 of the plan, revising one of the triggers. 3 of the 4 triggers are either met or will be met imminently, and it would revise one of them to enable the county to continue to have private investment see the Great Seneca Science Corridor as a very strong place to go. So, Gwen, can I ask for your comments and what implications that might have for the work program, and how do you think it might be able to, what response you'd have?
Sure. You know, we agree that with the discussions that have been going on regarding the CCT, other ideas about transit on I-270, all of these discussions absolutely have an impact on the specific recommendations in the Great Seneca Science Corridor Plan. Last budget season, you all added a project to our work program that was called the I-270 Corridor Transit Functional Plan. And we added that to our work program, but there was no funding added to help with what is a very difficult and complex plan. So we really pushed it to the end of the fiscal year, starting at maybe in like June of 2020. And we were going to be asking you for some additional funding to help support that plan as part of our fiscal year 21 budget. We feel like that work is so important in informing any minor master plan amendment to the staging for Great Seneca Science Corridor. So what we would propose is that we speed up and start the work on I-270 Corridor Transit Functional Plan sooner. And by sooner, I mean like in November. But to do that, we will need some of the consulting dollars we had planned to ask you for in fiscal year 21. So we might come to you with a special appropriation request for some of those consulting dollars. If we are able to speed up I-270 transit functional plan rather than starting it in June of 2020, if we were able to start it in November of 2019, we will have a lot of the information, the data, the things we need to help inform a minor master plan amendment on Great Seneca Science Corridor. It is not it's not as easy as it sounds to simply go in and change the staging on that plan.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, Gwen.
Right. That plan had a lot of community participation. There are people in that community who have a lot of thoughts about transportation in their community.
I think we're already starting to hear some of them.
Yes, and so we cannot really do that work without beginning to look at what you tasked us to do on the I-270 corridor transit plan. So we would be able to move that plan up, start on it right away, and if we can do that, I think that we could probably add the Great Seneca minor master plan amendment to start in perhaps April or May of 2020, to start in the springtime. And we would try to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible and keep it relatively narrow, as you've suggested.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I would like to see them running concurrently, But it seems to me that there's urgency around the 270 corridor master plan, transit plan, just because we're in the midst of a massive negotiation over transportation policy there as a result of the governor's proposal. So that has merit on its own, it seems to me, to move as quickly as possible with consultant dollars around transportation and transit in the 270 corridor. Glenn, can I just ask for your comment on the master plan amendment and how these two are related?
I think they're two separable decisions, really. The I-270 corridors plan is really important, but I think that's on a separate track than this. Just again, restating, what is this particular proposal of yours? It's to change one stage of the plan. It doesn't actually change the total amount of development in that stage. It just breaks it into two pieces. It doesn't change anything in the transportation elements of the plan, doesn't change any land use or zoning decisions, doesn't change any other public facilities. It doesn't even change most of the staging plan at all. Stages 1, 3, and 4 are unchanged. And the end result of stage 2 is still the same. You still need to have the CCT program within 6 years. Frankly, I don't see why a staff draft couldn't come out almost immediately on this and have this ready to be approved by the council by sometime late this spring or early this summer. The plan couldn't go into effect until July 1st anyway, because one of the three triggers of stage 2A, as you proposed it, is the programming of the LSC loop trail, Life Science Center loop trail, within 6 years. It's not right now. The 19 to 24 CIP, which you're operating under, has design funding in 23 and 24, but on the PDF it does say it anticipates construction in 25 and 26. And if you keep to that same schedule and the 21 to 26 CIP, which will be taking up this winter, then in fact it will be within 6 years, and that becomes effective July 1st. So it just comes back to your session that you had just a week and a half ago, where you said you wanted to try to get something moving on economic development as soon as possible. This does that. This gets it as soon as possible. It's still 9 months to a year from now. But to put it off until all the other studies are done, I think is not necessarily something that can be done, or it should be done. I'm not disagreeing with accelerating the 270. Let me just reiterate that. If you want to spend the additional money, the appropriation to do that, that is a separable decision. But I think this can be done actually very quickly.
And we anticipate that there will be community participation, and we will take it up here at the council as well. So, that's going to be part of the process.
Yeah, I mean, respectfully, I just have to say that I disagree with Dr. Orland in the sense that this isn't a simple matter. It has been written down in a 2-page memo. We have had no opportunity to really analyze this as we received the memo just last night. We actually believe that there are implications and that letting additional development density go forward does have transportation repercussions. And so we think that it isn't as simple as simply doing a staff draft, incorporating what's in this 2-page memo and sending it forward to you all. We think it needs analysis. And, again, the staging that we came to in the Great Seneca Science Corridor Plan was not come to easily. It was done through analysis and thinking about the balance of infrastructure and development. We believe that the I-270 plan is important, but we do see that they are connected and linked, because if we're going to be looking at a variety of kinds of transit infrastructure, perhaps even above and beyond the CCT, that is going to allow more land use in a different set of staging times. And so we think that they are connected, and we do think that we want to proceed in a very logical, methodical, transparent way where we are actually doing the analysis, talking to the community about what that analysis is, and bringing you something that will not become contentious and divisive when it comes to you at the council.
Can I just a couple of comments, and I have not been totally involved in this, so.
Jerry, actually, I think.
But I just wanted,
okay, very briefly, please.
Yeah,
Jerry.
just if you look at the physical elements of the CCT, it's an interchange in a park and ride lot in the south, which could be totally part of the ICC project, the P3. And then there's a bridge over 270 to Century Boulevard. And then it runs along 270 between Middlebrook and Watkins Mill, the new interchange. And then it runs in the median of Quince Orchard. And then it runs in the median of Great Seneca, which the county built and transferred to the state. And then there's a bridge over the Shady Grove. So all of those are elements that, to me, as a civil engineer, could be part of the design of the 270 P3 project.
You're right. I think a lot of us are enthusiastic about that.
So we need the information that would help our case.
Well, what we are specifically asking for is for the planning board to prepare an amendment to the master plan that opens up an additional amount of development so that the private sector can make investment in our biohealth cluster, which is the core of it is right there. So we are asking you to please proceed with that, and we understand that there will be some discussion about it, and it's clear that the Quarter Cities Transitway it's a cross current, and we're going to be rethinking that, and that we need to be moving as urgently as possible there. But we don't want to have the geographic core of our biohealth cluster in a development moratorium, and that is the issue.
All right, so I want to do a time check because we have until 12:30. We do have a couple of lights, including one of the district council member, and I think that we should, both council members, yes. So what I like to do is to make sure that first we hear from everybody, and then as an option, perhaps to come back maybe next week when, if the director has just received this memo last night, I think that it is appropriate for people to digest exactly what this means. At face value, I'm very interested in making sure we move forward as much as possible, but obviously there are particular implications that we should all just should have the opportunity to step back and understand exactly what we're considering versus, having to take a vote very quickly without having had that opportunity. So I just want to throw that out there, but let's move through the lights and then we can decide how we want to proceed. Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I have to agree with Ms. Wright, everything that you're saying. I was actually a part of this entire process when I was with Gaithersburg, and of course the Hopkins and others did not annex into the city because the county ultimately gave them the better deal. They government shopped, and the county was able to keep them. The CCT, it was started out as a light rail. Let's get the history down, and I'm going to do this very quickly. I'm not going to, but it started out as a light rail. The state said they were going to do it, then the county was going to do it, and to me, the alignment of the CCT is not the right alignment as it is today. And I know that Glenn strongly disagrees with me, and that's fine, but I strongly disagree with him on it. I believe that it should come down Shady Grove Road. When this was thought of, Shady Grove Road did not have development on it. It does now, and it will in the future. There are when this entire area for the science center area there was absolutely time after time after time citizen involvement that said, and let's make a deal, and they did. Phil Andrews was probably one of the great champions on that. He actually worked through with the community and with all the property owners and everybody else and came up with this deal. Nobody wants economic development more than I do. But we also need to keep in mind that if you're going to do something, you have to, first off, live by your promises, and secondly, have the infrastructure in place when you're going to do it. And to pretend that we're going to get the Carter Cities Transitway because the state or that we can afford to do it this way is not right. I think I'm fine to wait the week. I have no problem letting the planners come back and give us their thoughts once they read this. But I have strong opinion that this is not the right alignment for the CCT. I believe if we're going to change something, we should look at it all at the same time, and that we should do it so that the public is aware that we will live by the promises that we made.
Thank you. Councilmember Rice.
So it's interesting because I too found out about this yesterday, and I appreciate Councilmember Reamer for reaching out to me and asking me. We had a conversation about this. We didn't have a conversation about the memo, nor did we have a conversation about the specifications. So when the Councilmember Reamer keeps saying we, I'm not sure who the we is. You know, again, I'm not included in this memo as a district council member. You know, and one of the things is that for me, it's always about making sure that you incorporate the views of the community. We have a newly regenerated Germantown Alliance who just put on a great Germantown parade and Oktoberfest. There's really a lot of energy around what to do new in this area. We have the City of Gaithersburg government that's involved. We have the Germantown-Gaithersburg Chamber of Commerce, who plays a key role when it comes to this. All of them have to be asked about this, and City of Gaithersburg and Rockville. We all need to have them have their input before we run with something like this. So the concept itself is good, and I do agree with Gwen in terms of that's a possible iteration as well. I'm not sold on this iteration. I'm sold that we need to do something, and so that was my communication. But to then run forward with a memo, you know, it is not what we want. I thought the idea was to have a conversation today and charge the planning board with identifying what it is. We at any time, like we did with Clarksburg, come up and say we need to do a master plan amendment, and we can figure it out. It doesn't have to be today, right? And so from that perspective, that's what the council can do at any time. That was my understanding. So let me just be very clear, Councilmember Reamer, if you thought it was something else, it wasn't. That's what it is. And so from that perspective, I do think we need to take a step back, breathe, talk to folks, figure out what makes the most sense for all of us moving forward, understanding that we want to see something happen. But I will say this, and Councilmember Katz, Council Vice President Katz said it, I'm going to say it a little bit stronger. Watering down the CCT even more is not an option for me. It's not an option for my constituents. It is not something that I believe in. So to say that somehow we need to look at this and make it a little bit less is not something that people are asking for, nor do they deserve. In fact, I believe that they, and I have the floor, I believe that they at first, when we were talking about light rail, that was the most important thing. And we as a community decided to scale down and say, you know what? We'll work with you if you give us this because we understand it's very cost prohibitive, but we want to have something happen for our community. To assert that we need to do even more in terms of bargaining with the state and doing something less than what's already there is preposterous. It doesn't make any sense, and I would never support anything like that. You know, so, you know, no offense to my good friend Casey, but, you know, if you water down the CCT anymore, it'll just be a dedicated bike lane. I mean, so I don't understand what that would be about. So, you know, look, at the end of the day, here's the thing. We do need to look at this. We need to accelerate options for commercial development, understanding what the trials and tribulations are with the CCT. But I'm not ready to call it quits. I think that there's still life support that may be out there. And guess what? This governor will only be around for another 3 years. And so from that perspective, we waited a long time. We waited a long time for the ICC. We've still been waiting a long time for M83. And so if we have to wait a little bit longer when it comes to CCT, so be it. But I'm not going to bargain away what is deserved for the up and mid-county just because I have a governor who's decided that he doesn't want to support one of the lifebloods and economic engines in this state. That's his mistake, not ours. So anyway, I just wanted to give my comments there, but I did want to talk, Ms. Wright, about something very quickly, which you talked about, which is agritourism. I'm very excited about the work that you're doing with agritourism, and it matters so much. My work with the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, and when it comes to COG, and trying to support our ag task force that we have there and really promote what's happening with our food council is incredibly important on so many levels when it comes to climate sustainability, when it comes to food sustainability, and when it comes to economic development. All of those things are imperative, and so we've got to do it. And as we approach this current time frame of when we have all of the haunted forests and all those kinds of things, it's really timely. So it is important for us to really understand what's going to be best for us in terms of promoting our agricultural reserves. So I just wanted to lift up that work. And lastly, but certainly not least, Lake Forest Mall. We have to start thinking now about what the planning is, and I know I'm diving into my colleagues' territory a bit, but we share the surrounding area of Lake Forest Mall, and so and we're in lockstep agreement here. One of the keys is that I know in talking with our school system, we need a new elementary school. All of our elementary schools are completely overcrowded, and so a model similar to what we did at Crown in terms of having dedicated space, I see in a redevelopment of Lake Forest Mall a dedication of an elementary school site, and that may help to incentivize developers, may certainly work in our favor, and, oh, by the way, incentivize growth when it comes to support for the CCT. Since it would travel right in front. So from that perspective, there's a lot of options that we have that we can utilize as methodologies. So incorporating all of those together, I think we can come up with some great, robust ways in which we can support the Mid and Up County. I look forward to working with you and your department and my colleagues to make those things happen. Thank you.
Let me allow Council Vice President Katz.
Thank you very much for that. And of course, I think it should be noted that Lake Forest Mall is under the jurisdiction of the city of Gaithersburg. And might I say proudly, the city of Gaithersburg has probably gotten more school sites for Montgomery County Public Schools than a lot of areas, and in fact, they were the only ones who ever got a free Montgomery County High School site, a free site. Now, we have to work to make certain that that continues to be, because we're getting closer to the time frame when the school had to be built, and I have a feeling that my good friends from the city of Gaithersburg will certainly consider extending that time. But I do believe that there's opportunities now. I mean, we're certainly not happy that Lake Forest is having all the issues that it's having, but there are opportunities now that we can get a much better situation for all involved. So I think we need to continue our communication with the city and
I will just mention, we have already met with the planning staff, including John Schlichtling at the city of Gaithersburg, about Lake Forest and other issues of mutual concern. So we certainly understand it is in the jurisdiction of Gaithersburg, but we feel like it's important to work together on everything, and we have already reached out and had one meeting on that topic.
Great. So regarding Councilmember Reamer's memo, could we then have Ms. Dunn, can you work both with the planning staff as well as Councilmember Reamer to see when then we can, we'll be ready to entertain some options regarding that. That's all right. Okay. All right. Councilmember Reamer.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear for the record, I did not suggest any changes to the mode of the Quarter Cities Transitway. I have real concerns about changing the alignment, and the comments about changing the alignment, that's a multi-year conversation. And if that is the predicate for allowing for more development in the Great Seneca Science Corridor, I think that's an issue. So these are some of the issues that we have to wrangle our way through, and I hope that we can return and have a hammered out approach next week. Thank you.
Great. Councilmember Friedson.
Well, obviously planning is a very passionate issue here at the council, and I just wanted to appreciate all the work that you all do. So it took me a lot longer to say it with parks. I want to be much quicker now. 2 words, thank you. Appreciate all the work you do, and look forward to seeing this work in action.
He kept his promise. He did. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate everybody being here. Amazing work going on. Really appreciate my colleagues as well. Councilmember Reamer as Chair of Fed, and we are going to adjourn until 1:30, at which time we'll have interview for County Executive's appointee as Director of Department of Transportation, another very important issue. Christopher Conklin. Thank you.